and primed for blood. The real question isn't how could this happen? The real question is how long before this becomes the norm?
A chilling silence follows the sound of a single gunshot. Conservative firebrand Charlie Kirk shot dead mid-speech.
Oh my God.
A political assassination, say many. Kirk wasn't just another Trump campaign aide. He was one of the most influential unelected people in America. A tireless organizer, a fiery speaker, and a relentless fundraiser. He turned online activism into real-world political muscle. He helped fill stadiums, mobilized young voters, and pushed the Trump message into places it had never reached before. Trump called the shooting a dark moment and vowed retribution.
For years, those on the radical left have compared wonderful Americans like Charlie to Nazis and the world's worst mass murderers and criminals. This kind of rhetoric is directly responsible for the terrorism that we're seeing in our country today, and it must stop right now.
Investigators say the shot that struck Kirk was fired from an estimated distance of nearly 150 yards. A single round aimed with chilling precision. This is more than an attack in figure. It's a flashpoint in a national crisis. The United States loses more than 40,000 lives every year to gun-related injuries, mass shootings, suicides, street and political violence. The right has faced criticism for pushing permissive gun laws and celebrating firearms as symbols of freedom rather than instruments of death. There's also an India connect to Kirk. Just a week before his death, he triggered rage over his remarks on Indian migrants, stating America does not need for people from India. He said that it's full and it's time the country put its own people first. The shooting of Charlie Kirk is not just a story about one man or one campaign. It's a story about a nation where political rhetoric, anger, and easy access to guns collide with deadly consequences. Charlie Kirk, divisive, bold, and now silenced. But has this killing unified a country or pushed it closer to the edge? With Sejal Gupta and Vishal Vivek, Bureau Report, NDTV.
Well, the question both literally and rhetorically is who killed Charlie Kirk? Let's try and answer that question. We've got three voices tonight here on India Matters. David Sofair is a Republican strategist. He joins us from the United States tonight. Welcome, David. Jonah Blank is a former advisor to President Biden. He's also with the National University of Singapore and RAND Corporation. And Adele Nazarian is a podcaster and senior fellow with the Gold Institute for International Strategy. She's a well-known journalist and foreign policy analyst as well. Adele, welcome to all of you. David, I'd like to start with you. Like I said, it's a literal question right now tonight because the killer of Charlie Kirk hasn't been found yet. That investigation is on. There's also a culture war and a huge blame game that's going on over who is really responsible. So your opening thoughts, who killed Charlie Kirk?
Before I get started, I just want my thoughts and prayers to go out to all the victims of September 11th. This is a tragic day in American history. And I'd also like to send my condolences to the Kirk family as well. This is a tragic killing. You know, here in the States, we really condemn any sort of political violence, especially in journalism, which has been happening a lot lately. And more recently, on both sides of the aisle, there's been a lot of political violence, whether it's been a firebomb or shootings or assassination attempts, and a lot of death threats and hate mail. I mean, these numbers are way, way up. So that's how I'd like to start it. Now, your question was, who killed. We're not going to speculate. They found the weapon, and there is no doubt that the killer or group or whatever it is will be brought to justice in no short order.
Jonah, who in your view killed Charlie Kirk?
Well, we don't know. The killer has not been found, and we have no idea. But the one thing I think that all of us can agree on is that guns are far too easy to get in America, and that both on the left, on the right, on the center, wherever you may be on the political spectrum, there's no excuse possible for killing a political opponent. There's no excuse for killing children at a school, which also happens with alarming frequency in America. The same day that Charlie Kirk was killed, we had yet another schoolyard shooting, not even far away in Evergreen, Colorado. So I think at least before we even address the question of who killed Charlie Kirk, let's just all agree that we need to come together to make firearms under control and not so widely available for just anyone to use as political tools of vengeance.
Adele, what is your view? Same question. We do know literally that the killer has not been found just yet, but there are fingers being pointed by both sides of the political aisle over venomous rhetoric, the normalization of violence, gun laws in the United States, some of the things that Charlie Kirk himself said. What do you think, both literally and metaphorically, who killed Charlie Kirk, Adele?
Look, whoever killed Charlie Kirk must be found, must be brought to justice. That's not a question in my mind. I think, though, this rhetoric about trying to blame it on guns is crazy. People kill people with guns, with knives, with ramming their cars into crowds. I have news for everyone here. The guns in America aren't going anywhere. And you can talk about it from here to high water, but it's never going to change. This is what America was founded on. And unless they're planning on rounding up militias, literally sending out militias, which is a far left talking point and a belief, and rounding people up like the Nazis did, that's what you're looking at. And that's not what America's going to do, because that's not what's going to happen. I'm sorry. What happened to Charlie is a national tragedy. This is trying to silence someone for having an opinion that differs from whoever decided to carry out this horrible tragedy.
David, President Obama put out a post on social media today offering his condolences to the family of Charlie Kirk. And if you looked at the replies to President Obama, they were almost uniformly from the American right, where they said that it is the normalization of violence, it is the rhetoric, it is the demonization of the American right, that has made something like this possible. Do you agree with that? Because the same thing is being said on the other side as well, David.
Well, I again, my heart goes out to all the victims here, and the witnesses are actually victims now as well. But what really is, and when you really boil it down, and when you look at where the violence is happening from a political standpoint, it is on the left. And when you say far right, I find that a very misleading statement that you're saying on your TV right now. He was really a guy that was, in a democratic sphere that had some conservative values. He was nowhere near he was nowhere near as far left as, the people that are in Antifa or in BLM, for example, who burnt down America and killed, hundreds of people with guns and torches and bombs. And, that was, state sponsored as well, unfortunately. And then, we had in the Biden administration, they really took down the freedom of speech. And what they did was they emboldened the media as well. So, I hate to quote the Washington Post, but democracy really does die in darkness. And that's what we have been seeing here happen. So, and when it comes down to guns, let's be real clear on that. The majority of gun crimes aren't, which is a terrible thing, are happening in Democrat precincts and with unlicensed Democrats killing each other. So, that should be addressed more. So, I'm all for, responsible ownership of, firearms, but I'm definitely not for criminals and for, Biden-era state-sponsored decriminalization of crime, which I'm not conflating the two. We have no idea who's behind this or whatever. But I just wanted to, really bring that up for your viewers because democracy does matter. And, this is really a huge problem, and I was the first person to condemn, any sort of political terror or suppression of free speech or, suppression of our amendments that we have here that we fight for in this country. So the idea that people are far left and far right isn't the truth. And the idea of the MAGA movement as well. I mean, so Trump won the popular vote by a landslide, by the majority. So, that is the average American voted for Trump. So the average person on a college campus or, on a coast, obviously, is something else. But we should not demonize, President Trump, his cabinet, the people of America, etc. So let's be clear there. And Democrats have guns too.
Jonah, you're shaking your head. You don't agree with that. Go ahead.
Oh, well, the number of misstatements we've just heard is pretty extraordinary. Just to start out, Donald Trump did not win a majority of the popular vote. He won a very, very narrow minority. He did not win by a landslide. He won a legitimate victory. This was not a mandate in any way. We can go back and litigate a whole lot of the statements here, but they're not really important. What matters here is that a very powerful and influential political figure was killed. We do not know why. We do know how. We can speculate on why, and my speculations are probably not different from those of my colleagues. But what we know is that he was killed by a gun, and that Americans have far too an easy task of getting weapons of death in their hands. I could go out right now from my home, and in half an hour, I could be holding a semi-automatic rifle. You can't do that in India, and that's one of the reasons that Indian politicians and Indian political figures are not being gunned down on a regular basis.
That's very true, and I would argue that there's also a cultural layer to that answer, but we'll never know because we don't have the same gun laws. But I take your point. Adele, beyond just the gun laws issue, there's a real culture war which cannot be ignored. The extreme demonization of one side by the other, this whole good versus evil narrative and rhetoric, over simple political disagreements, makes this seem like every political argument or debate is something that must end with complete victory and one side vanquishing the other. And that's where all this bloodthirst actually comes from, possibly, Adele.
Well, it is. It's at an all-time high. And honestly, what's happened now is, I don't know if any of you were watching TMZ at the time, the issue with Harvey Levin. There were people in his staff laughing in the background, and then they tried to apologize and say that it was because of a car chase that was underway. But you can tell in his body language it was a complete lie. There are journalists who are laughing and praising and cheering on his death. Teachers, educators who educate our children who are praising his death. People mostly on the left who are praising his death. I have to tell you, this should not be a political issue. What effectively has now happened is that the people who hate him, whether it's an Islamist, whether it's a Marxist, whether it's a leftist, have turned Charlie Kirk, who is a friend of mine, by the way, who was a friend of mine. I worked with him before. And they've made him into a martyr. You're going to see tens of millions of people, if not more, going online, watching his videos, listening to his thoughts, and putting even more attention on what he's saying. And what is it going to do? Hey, if you don't like it or not, it's going to ignite something politically inside of them. Maybe they were ideologically left or center. I have a feeling they're going to turn maybe against the party they're part of and turn the other way and say, look, what he's been saying, like it or not, it's the truth. And it's going to resonate with a lot more people. So in his death, sadly, he may have had more of an impact for what's about to happen next. And I think there's going to be, as I'm hearing many people saying, a reckoning. I will say this, I will preface that by saying violence is never the answer. Absolutely, bloodshed should never be the answer. And I think what we're doing here is not just having a political battle for the ages. This is a battle for the heart and soul of Western civilization, which India is very much a part of, alliances, and it is far deeper than anyone can possibly imagine. And you're absolutely correct. The US-India relationship does have everything to do with, is very much involved with this.
Yeah.
What Charlie said, obviously, was coming from a nationalistic perspective, but America, Indians, Hindus who are in America are just as much part of the American fabric as everyone else, and he was not a bigoted person, and people may try to present him that way, but he really was not. And I think that this has to be a lesson that even if you disagree with someone, you have to honestly emulate left, right, center, Democrat, Republican, what Charlie did. And he sat down with people who were ideologically opposed to him and would use sound common sense and valid arguments to disagree and put forth why he did not agree with the other side. And I think we need more of that.
No, Adele, I completely agree with you. I just tend to be a little skeptical when I hear the word reckoning, especially when it comes to gun crimes in the United States that have a political layer to them, because we've seen them come and go, and nothing has really changed in that sense, either procedurally or in terms of the law or even in terms of the normalization of such crime. A quick final answer from you, Adele, on that.
I think that, as I said before, thank you, I don't think America's gun problem is going anywhere. It's part of the founding of the nation. America's very exceptional in this regard, for the better or worse, till death do us part. I guess you can say guns in America are married, and they're never getting divorced. And I think that said, there has to be, look, anyone who wants to do something bad is going to get it done. You saw what happened with Irina, the Ukrainian immigrant in America who was brutally slaughtered with a pocket knife. If someone wants to do something, they're going to find a way to do that thing. And this is more of a spiritual war, I think, in battle. That's the underlying cause of what's happening. And I really hope people wake up and see that they choose good over bad. I really do.
Well, the killer has not been found. We don't know specifically why Charlie Kirk was killed. We have ideas. There's a lot of rhetoric. There's a lot of speculation and theories as to why it happened, and it has only triggered more. I think we can be safely certain that in his death, Charlie Kirk is probably going to be much more popular than he would ever have been alive. Thank you very much, David, Jonah, and Adele. Your time is valuable here on India Matters. Thank you. Well, the truth of the matter is the death of Charlie Kirk, being my lead story tonight, it was important because this was a right-wing poster boy in the United who had lately, over the last few days, begun to attack India over visas and jobs in the United States. And yet, in India, there was opposition, but there was no hatred whatsoever. And it's very important to remember that. Now let's go on to our second story tonight. Nepal continues to be on edge after 48 hours of mob violence, bloodshed, and curfew. But here in India, a Congress leader named Dr. Udit Raj had a question whether a Nepal-like situation could happen in India, and has triggered a furious backlash that I'm finding a little funny tonight, and I will tell you why. The BJP says that Dr. Udit Raj of the Congress is being seditious, dangerous, provoking unrest by saying a Nepal-like situation could possibly happen here in India, or ask whether it could happen. Several right-wing commentators are calling for action against Dr. Udit Raj. I have a different view, viewer. I say, please be kind to dear Dr. Udit Raj. He merely articulates what has become the institutionalized wet dream of sections of the Indian opposition. This is not just one man speaking out of turn. This is a reflection of a Congress party that has failed so consistently at the ballot box and failed so thoroughly at winning the imagination of India's voter that it has formalized its libido for anarchy. First, they called into question India's electoral process. not with hard data, but with endless histrionics that were repeatedly fact-checked and debunked. And now, having lost the stomach to fix what is broken in their own house, they sit on the political footpath, watching fires in other countries and getting turned on. They see the chaos in Nepal not with horror, but with longing, yearning, bordering on arousal. Udit Raj isn't alone. A former Air Force officer who works for the Congress party actually posted this video of Nepal's finance minister being chased and beaten by a mob and added, "I wonder how difficult it would be to run in a sari." An obvious reference to India's finance minister, Nirmala Sitharaman. Now, this is what being in the political wasteland does to a party that has no coherent plan to get back to power. They have become spectators to other people's anarchy because they are too detached from the idea of actually doing the hard work to win the imagination of the voters. They've made a dent in some states. They had a decent performance in the last Lok Sabha election, and yet they compare India with Nepal. And no, I don't think their words are dangerous. Nobody is inspired or instigated by the politically frustrated. Let's be clear about that. The Udit Rajas of the world are not a threat. They are a symptom, and a pitiful one at that, of a party that has run out of road and now finds fantasy in watching someone else's house burn down.
Yes, the social media is flooded. That situation like Nepal should be created here. A lot of youths and those who are unemployed and are not satisfied, they are contemplating like this. I said no, it is not possible in India because of two counts. One, that it is our constitution is very strong, and our root of our democracy is very, very deep rooted. I clarified that the situation like Nepal is not likely to happen in India. It's the other way around. I'm surprised that the way that it is interpreted.
So Dr. Udit Raj, senior leader of the Congress party, sees a Nepal-like situation here in India. 19 protesters have been killed. The country is under siege by protesters. Their entire parliament is in flames. Ministers, prime ministers have beaten bloody to within inches of their lives. Corruption scandals are exploding all over the country. There is complete anarchy. And Dr. Udit Raj has claimed that there is a Nepal-like situation in India. Let's talk about it on the debate tonight. Anand Ranganathan, author, commentator and scientist. Ashwini Mishra is a leader of the Congress party. Welcome to you both. Thank you for your time. Ashwini, to you first. What Nepal-like situation is Dr. Udit Raj seeing in India? Is this wishful thinking? Because it doesn't seem to be based anywhere close to being on, kind of facts. Is this wishful thinking? Is this just the Congress's wet dream? What is he talking about? Is this the official position of the Congress party?
Indian peoples are peace-loving people, and Indian people love democracy. However, the current government of India and the media is exactly behaving like how Nepal government and media behave.
In what way?
I'll explain.
Ashwini ji, you're the first. You're coming to my show for the first time. I promise you, I do not like interrupting my guests. Anand also knows this. I let everyone speak, but I cannot let narrative and propaganda go. So I'm asking a straight question. What is similar between Nepal and India right now? Please be factual, no rhetoric.
Okay, I'll be very on the topic. In this whole protest in Nepal started with anti-corruption movement against government, and media portrayed it like a narrative being built against government, and eventually they suppressed the freedom of speech as well by blocking all the social media platforms. So that is where the protesters, which got agitated, and this turned into violence. We don't support violence, and I don't believe that our country's citizens are of that nature. However, the responsibility of the government as well as the media, that is why they are burning all those media channels. We saw Kantipur yesterday being burnt down by these protesters. So the idea was that government pushed media to bit nail down so that they can push the narrative, and media there literally started crawling.
Okay, so let me ask you.
Media,
I know many Nepali journalists. I know many Nepali stations and newspapers. They have all been writing against the government. Many of them have been questioning the government as far as the corruption scandals there are concerned. I want to ask you a small question, then I'll go to Anand. Ashwini ji, is it the Congress party's official position, what Udit Raj ji has said today, that there is a Nepal-like situation here in India? Is that the categorical official position of the Congress party?
We are warning to the current government of India that don't test people and don't test their patience to a limit. We have seen in 2008 during Gujjar Andolan in Rajasthan, 72 people were killed. Government opened the fire directly on the protesters.
That was a caste protest. That had nothing to do with what's happening in Nepal.
But,
you are
going to take government has
you are going to take any
BJP
protest you want.
No, even Jat Andolan in Haryana.
Again about caste and reservation.
See, it's not about the protest. It's about the way government is handling the protest. Today we saw in Assam how the lathi charge were done on the people. We have seen how the lathi charge was done on this Kisan who are asking for. So problem is the government is suppressing the freedom of speech, and that is what situation like in Nepal.
In India, there is no country in the world that has the kind of freedom of speech and freedom of expression like India. In a country where people for the last 36 to 48 hours have been saying Nepal-like situation in India, we should have a Nepal-like situation in India. What is happening in Nepal should happen in India. All those people, all of those people are walking free. They belong to political parties. They are able to express their opinion freely without absolutely anything happening against them. I personally hate all this sedition law, etc. But if ever there was a case of sedition to be applied, it should be applied against people who are talking about wanting a Nepal-like situation in India or seeing the colors of Nepal currently reflected in India. I'll come back to you, Anand. How would you respond to Dr. Udit Raj and Ashwini ji, who says, yes, this is what the Congress feels right now?
Good evening, Shiv, and good evening to my dear friend Ashwini ji and to your viewers. But first, the irony of Ashwini ji speaking of freedom of speech and expression being suppressed, speaking on your show, when his party has filed FIRs and wants to prosecute you for telling the truth. Oh, the irony. But anyway, look, I think these taunting statements being made by especially the Congress amongst the opposition leaders is frankly gone beyond disturbing. You know, it was, maybe you could take it lightheartedly a few days ago, but not anymore. You think we can't see through you? Screaming that the constitution has been murdered, that the elections are a total fraud, that the ruling government is stealing votes, that all our constitutional independent bodies, our judiciary have been destroyed, are compromised, that all wealth is controlled by a few crony billionaires, when none of it is true. None. And this is being done for one purpose only, to spring 1,000 Nepals on India's streets. And they're hoping and praying, Shiv, for a bloody revolution in India, with a civil war based on religion, language and caste fault lines thrown in. They haven't succeeded in this venture for a decade, but they'll keep trying, trust you me. They don't get the simple logic, such a simple logic, that if, as they claim, that in addition to all of their aforementioned screams, there are no jobs, that inflation is sky high, as Udit Raj was saying, that economy is dead, as Rahul was saying, we would already have had a bloody revolution by now. There would already have been 1,000 Nepals sprung up from Kashmir to Kanyakumari in India. That they haven't is because 1 billion Indians can see through these lies. They know that last year, as the RBI Keynes report said, 47 million jobs were created. That the inflation right now it is 1.53%, the lowest in 7 years. That PMI manufacturing is at all-time high. That inequality Gini is at all-time low. That Sensex is at all-time high. That India's GDP is growing at a blistering pace. If none of this was true, India indeed would have been Nepal. Now I need a minute, because here is what worries me, Shiv. Can India become Nepal? And the answer sadly is yes. But not because of the courage of these anarchists, rather through the cowardice of the state. Let me explain. It is this government that has repeatedly allowed anarchists to create mini Nepals in the form of Singhu borders and Shaheen Baghs. Look, The opposition leaders support anarchists blocking highways, dharna, chakka jam, breaking law. But it's not about their hypocrisy. It's about the weakness of the state and of everyone, Prime Minister down. Let us not forget how anarchists and middlemen, Khalistani separatists and supporters were mollycoddled by the center. Their every illegality went unpunished. Modi and Shah weren't able to stop the mob carrying swords and other weapons from driving to the heart of the capital of India and hoisting a flag illegally at the Red Fort, the symbol of our democratic independent identity. The inevitable vacuum, Shiv, that is created when justice and rule of law whooshes away got filled by anarchy and bloodshed. Worse, many of the cases against the rioters have been withdrawn. Look, the day Prime Minister Modi decided to repeal the farm laws, that very day sent a message to the world. It was a victory of anarchy over democracy, Ludism over logic, control over choice. The message was just 10 seconds. Block roads, strike work, loot, kill, lay siege, become Nepal. And Modi will succumb. And since that day, the government asked to bend has been crawling. So yes, India will become Nepal, not because of Indian reality, but rather because of ignoring it.
I completely agree with what Anand has just said, Ashwini ji, because I'll tell you why, and I'll give you a chance to reply to that. The reason for that is, this is wishful thinking. The fact of the matter is, the Congress party and certain other opposition elements have tasted blood in the entire farm laws fiasco. They've tasted blood. They have seen that trying to instigate anarchy actually works politically. And the government did in fact bend. I 100% agree. That's the reason why you're hoping that every time you see this kind of bloody anarchy in a neighboring country, you are hoping that it can happen, because you've actually seen a mini version of it already happen here in India. You have failed electorally. The Congress has failed electorally. You have no faith in the election system. Your leader is running a vote chori campaign which has been separately debunked. Your party has been threatening me separately because I have some facts to put on the table. And here you're seeing, you're having these wet dreams about Nepal happening in India.
I'm sorry, you both sounded more like a dictatorship and Hitler-like kind of tone when you talk about the revolution should be suppressed, and the farm laws which were withdrawn was government bending down to the demands of farmers. It was
bending down to SUV driving vested interests. That's a separate debate. Let's focus on this right now.
Yeah, so I'm coming back to the topic. We never wished that India should become Nepal. What we said is, we want that let's not test the people's patience to the limit. If you really keep bending, if media really keep bending.
Which patience is being tested? Ashwini ji, give me 2 facts where Indians' patience is being tested. Just 2 facts. Tell me.
Anand ji, we have seen Kisan Andolan where 700 farmers were killed during protest.
Okay,
who took the accountability of that? You can let me finish.
Nobody knows where that fact is coming from, by the way. That number, nobody knows where it's come from.
700 plus farmers were killed. Whenever someone goes on the street to protest, you either do lathi charge, you open fire in protest during MP, you open fire in protest during Bihar. We have seen recently in Assam what exactly we are trying to do. And moreover, this whole protest in Nepal was against the anti-corruption of the government. BJP has become the epitome of corruption.
But you have not
all
asked,
those
Ashwini ji, you have not. I will give the last word to Anand, but I want to ask you a small question before that. Ashwini ji, you have not answered his question. If things were so bad, you are the biggest opposition party in the country, then why isn't India burning like Nepal? India should be burning, and you have bigger allegations than what the Nepalese government has been accused of.
It is Indian people who love democracy. It is Indian people who are Gandhiwadi.
Come on. That is a cop out.
Their right to protest. If you suppress them, their right to protest. We had Gandhis as well as Bhagat Singh.
Sir, so no country.
Remember that people of country will fight in any manner which is apt for democracy.
Ashwini ji, with greatest of respect, because this is the first time you are on my show, you have not given any facts. I will give one fact, and the last word goes to Anand. Did you know that no country on earth has as many protests as India does on a weekly basis on the number of issues that it has? No country on earth has as many protests as India does. Democratically performed protests that take place in different parts of the country. You've cherry-picked a few where some law and order situations may have happened, and you're painting it as a country of oppression and of Hitler. You've called poor Anand and me as well dictators tonight, but I will give the last word to Anand. Yes, Anand, go ahead.
Achtung. No, but because Ashwini ji talked about 2 instances I don't need to talk about the freedom of speech and expression that's happening in Congress ruled states and Bengal and non-BJP ruled states. That's a separate matter altogether because, as you correctly said, he was being selective. But be that as it may, let's talk about the two issues, farm laws and corruption. Now, when you talk of corruption, Ashwini ji, when you say Rahul Gandhi says anonymous electoral bonds is independent India's biggest scam, right? Fine. But you don't explain why through that biggest scam, Congress extracted 1,600 crores. When you say Adani and Ambani are scamsters, okay, fine. But you don't say why in erstwhile Congress ruled states of Chhattisgarh and Rajasthan, you had invested more than 1 lakh crore in Adani companies.
Yeah.
And when you talk of farm laws, you don't say that agricultural point number 11, point number 19, point number 23 of the 2019 election manifesto of Congress has exactly verbatim those 3 farm laws that Modi implemented. So what about the protests? It is because of your U-turns. And talking of CAA, you don't say that in 2015 Congress had a resolution saying that Bangladeshi minorities, obviously they can't be Muslim, should be given citizenship in India. When Modi brings the things that you promise, you don't bring it, Modi brings, you take a U-turn and then you want a bloody revolution. Aise nahi chalega.
Last word, okay, so I'm giving you the last word. I said Anand would have the last word since you've raised your finger. Last word to you.
Yeah.
Yes, Ashwini.
See, they are also giving the same logic on the vote chori also, that you are having government in Himachal, Karnataka and all. The logic is very simple. I go to police station and do a complaint that I had a theft in my house because my jewelry is stolen. And they will come with a logic. Why? No, there's no theft in your house because your furniture is not stolen, your clothes are not stolen, your car is not stolen.
Sir,
that is the same logic you are giving Anandji, which is not going to go through the people of country.
Sir, the election commission has only asked for a sworn affidavit. It is not such a ridiculous ask. If this was, if this was not a prestige issue, Rahul Gandhi could have easily gone and just done that and completely embarrassed the election commission. I will be the first one to jump on the streets and report the humiliation of the election commission if they are proven wrong. It is a ridiculous assumption.
Election commission and Anurag Thakur
you have not taken a moral position on this, sir. That's the point. Yes, Anand. We've gone way off the topic, but Anand, final word.
Now, I indulge in your benevolence, Shiv, because, you've called Ashwini for the first time and your rule was that he must bring facts to the table. He hasn't, but still call him another time.
Yeah, I will. No, I will for sure. Thank you very much. My producers are already yelling at me. I had a limited amount of time. I've already gone overboard because both of you are fantastic gentlemen. I will see you back on the show very soon. Thank you, Anand. Thank you, Ashwini, for being here on India Matters.
Thank you.
And now our final story tonight, and I apologize for ending on a very, very dark note, but this is a story that we cannot ignore. It happened in one of the most upscale areas of Hyderabad. That is 50-year-old Renu Agarwal, who was found in her house with her throat slit, her hands tied, her legs bound, and her head completely smashed with a pressure cooker lid. The people who are suspected to have perpetrated that crime are her own domestic help who had just been hired 10 days ago. And these two men seen here casually talking to each other in the lift after apparently committing that horrific murder have escaped from this gated colony which had CCTV cameras and all security arrangements, carried out this crime, and they are at large now. They haven't been caught just yet. Renu Agarwal's family, imagine, came home in that gated colony in an upscale part of Hyderabad and found her body. Let me tell you the sequence of events and how it actually took place. 50-year-old Renu Agarwal is the woman who was killed in her flat. This was a high-rise building where it happened. The victim was hit with a pressure cooker on her head and her hands were bound. Throat was slit with a knife and with scissors. Her hands were bound. She was found lying on the floor. Her legs were also tied. She was killed inside her home in a gated community by her own house help, who was someone who actually stayed on site. The suspects were seen, like I showed you in those pictures, in the lift's CCTV camera. They took a shower. They took a shower inside the house, if you can believe it. They changed their clothes and then they casually exited with new clothes after the murder. They had the time and the confidence to actually do that. They left their blood-stained clothes there at the victim's home. and there's a huge number of CCTV camera footage showing exactly how they left. They also looted the house with about 40 grams of gold and about 1 lakh rupees in cash. So robbery is believed to be the motive at this time. They were seen leaving on a two-wheeler which belonged to the neighbor after this particular murder. They are both apparently from Jharkhand and may actually be heading there. Now let's tell you a little bit about the two suspects, Harsha and Roshan. Two domestic workers were involved in this murder, Roshan and Harsha. Harsha was the house help who was working for Renu Agarwal, the Agarwal family, and he'd been hired via a manpower agency just about 10 days ago. He came from Jharkhand, as did Roshan, apparently, hired by the Agarwals just over a week ago from an agency that was based apparently in Kolkata. Roshan, who was a friend of Harsha's, worked for the neighbors. The both of them allegedly colluded, murdered Renu Agarwal, looted the house, had a shower, changed their clothes, had this casual conversation inside a lift showing no hurry at all, and then they left. And joining us live from Hyderabad tonight is Avinash Mohanty. He's the Commissioner of Police of Hyderabad on this horrific crime, the murder of 50-year-old Renu Agarwal by two house helps, one of her own household and one of her neighbor's household. Mr. Mohanty, thank you for your time. I know you are busy. A horrifying crime, sir. I'd like to start by asking you if you could just detail for us the sequence of this incident, sir.
Thank you and good evening. So this crime was reported yesterday evening. So basically, person, the complainant Rakesh Kumar Agarwal, who stays in Kukatpalli PS limits, when he came back home around 6:30, so he found his wife lying on the floor lifeless. With blood over the place. As a precursor to that, during the daytime, what had happened is his son got a phone call from one of the persons living in the same apartment that their house help was not reachable in the afternoon. And since he was a friend of the house help working in their house, so whether they had any knowledge about the whereabouts of the person. So when they called the house help, his number was switched off, and when they called, the boy called his mother, the son called his mother, he found her phone also to be not being responded to. So then they tried to come home early, and when they saw this, they reported it. So as of now, this is the primary suspects obviously are at this point of time the house help and his friend, and further investigation is underway in the matter, and efforts are being made to nab the culprits.
Mr. Mohanty, apparently these two culprits took the time to bathe inside the house, change clothes, the very worrying CCTV images in the colony of them, getting into the lift together, very sort of casually talking to each other just moments after a murder. What did you make of that, sir?
Basically, this house help who they had employed in their house had just been brought in a few days back, not very long back, maybe a week or 10 days back. And he was staying in the same apartment as the complainant. He was residing along with them. So he had access to the house at all points of time. And since it is a typical gated community, apartment which has all security features like cameras and security guards, so this person was caught on camera immediately after the offense was committed, and also when he was leaving with his friend. So for the security system in place, there was no threat because this person was already residing in the house with them. So he took a lot of advantage of that. And of course, since cameras are there in every part of the community, so his movements were captured.
Do we know where they are? I know you cannot, speak specifics about the investigation because it's ongoing. But how long do you see this investigation carrying on before they are nabbed, sir? We've read some reports that they have fled from Hyderabad, maybe heading towards Jharkhand, where they are from. Anything you can share with us about that?
I can tell you that we have multiple teams working on the case right now, and all leads that are available to us at this point of time are being followed up, and all possible efforts are being made to nab the accused at the earliest.
Robbery was the only motive, sir? Is that what you're seeing right now? Because some items have been looted from the house, including gold and cash, etc.
Presently, that is the only logical motive available to us now, since some valuables are missing from the house. But after we nab the accused, we would be able to find out in full detail as to what has happened.
Apparently, it was an agency that provided this particular house help to the Agarwal family. I'm guessing based in Kolkata, according to some reports. Can you tell us about that track, sir? Was this man not verified? Did he have any antecedents? Anything you can throw light on that aspect, sir?
I don't think any proper antecedent check was done by the family before engaging the household, except maybe a few references, because his friend also happened to work in the same apartment complex for some period of time, and the same agency which had helped hire his friend also had helped engage this person. So we think only a basic scrutiny was done, but no proper antecedent check was done as to his background.
Mr. Mohanty, last couple of questions. Like you rightly said, this gated community was, had all the compliances as far as security. It had cameras. It had security guards, etc. And that's the reason why people watching this story and looking at this story are very disturbed by what has happened, because it happened on the inside. Is there anything that this family did not do right? Or is there something more that people who live in gated colonies should be doing that they are not doing in order to make sure something like this does not happen, sir? Because everybody employs house helps. Everybody goes through agencies to get house helps in gated colonies. How does one ensure something like this is avoided?
One thing, of course, is to, as we discussed earlier, to have a proper antecedent verification done before engaging somebody. This is now available also through a lot of private vendors who are in this field. But that, if the person doesn't have a history of a criminal record, then that wouldn't show up anything suspicious. So it's very difficult, and as human beings, as we all have to trust somebody at some point of time to get going on our daily routines. But as much precaution, probably a layer of additional cameras inside in the common areas of the house would help in a little more of deterrence. And also, if you are not really sure of the house help's antecedents, not allowing him to stay in the house with you would probably help. But all that being said, one can not prevent everything in spite of taking all the precautions if even somebody you trust does something like that.
Well, I hope the two killers are apprehended very soon and brought to justice. Thank you very much, Avinash Mohanty, for speaking tonight to NDTV. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Hello, Moto.
Moto G96 5G. All eyes on you.
Vanakkam Tamil Nadu.
Well, the battle for Tamil Nadu 2026 is open now.
After Chief Minister Stalin rolls up his sleeves and Vijay steps in as a star challenger.
This is a mass gathering, not for cash.
Meanwhile, a former Chief Minister, Edapadi Palanisamy, begins his fight back.
The big comeback campaign by EPS has well and truly begun.
These are all the ultimate players, and this is going to be the ultimate test.
Finessa windows, beautiful and durable designs. इंस्टॉलेशन से मेंटेनेंस की लाइफ लॉन्ग कस्टमर सर्विस. आपके घर में फिनेस्टा नहीं है तो कॉल कीजिए.
Find Finer Finesta.
गोल्ड प्लस ऑप्टिमिस्टिक रिफ्लेक्टिव ग्लास लगाओ, धूप की गर्मी को दूर भगाओ और बिजली का बिल भी बचाओ.
फिनेस्टा विंडोज, ब्यूटीफुल एंड ड्यूरेबल डिजाइन्स. इंस्टॉलेशन से मेंटेनेंस की लाइफ लॉन्ग कस्टमर सर्विस. आपके घर में फिनेस्टा नहीं है तो कॉल कीजिए.
Find Finer Finesta.
My birthday gift to पापा. ये उनके पापा की पहली गाड़ी एक गराज में पड़ी थी दार्जिलिंग में. फिर 3 मैकेनिक, पेंटिंग, पॉलिशिंग. जब इसे फाइनली घर लाया ना, तब लगा लाइफ में ग्रो किया है. बुलाओ.
SIP करो, इन्वेस्ट करो, लाइफ में ग्रो करो.
प्रतिभूति बाजार में निवेश बाजार जोखिमों के अधीन है. निवेश करने से पहले सभी संबंधित दस्तावेजों को ध्यान से पढ़ें.
फिनेस्टा विंडोज, ब्यूटीफुल एंड ड्यूरेबल डिजाइन्स. इंस्टॉलेशन से मेंटेनेंस की लाइफ लॉन्ग कस्टमर सर्विस. आपके घर में फिनेस्टा नहीं है तो कॉल कीजिए.
Find Finer Finesta.
Well, we're on an incredible piece of Indian engineering. Shiv and I are absolutely privileged to be here with Larsen & Toubro in Hazira near Surat. This is a tank. It's called the Zorawar. It takes the battle to the Chinese in altitudes upwards of 15,000 feet.
You know, Vishnu, it's actually incredible that for a country that has fought so many wars in the mountains and at high altitude,